There is a man sitting in a meeting room right now, nodding along, smiling, agreeing with people he secretly despises. He goes home exhausted. Not from the work, from the performance. There is a woman checking her phone every 4 minutes, waiting for a message from someone who doesn't think about her at all. She tells herself she's fine. She is not fine. And somewhere right now, a person is replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, rehearsing what they should have said, tightening their jaw, feeling the shame all over again as if the moment is still happening. None of these people are weak. None of them are stupid. But something has taken hold of their minds. Something invisible. Something they never agreed to let in. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people will go their entire lives without ever identifying what it is. Epictetus was born into chains, literal chains. He was a slave. His master once twisted his leg until it broke, just to demonstrate power. Epictetus looked at him calmly and said, "You are going to break it." The master twisted harder. It broke. Epictetus said, "Did I not tell you?" What kind of mind produces that response? Not a mind that has given up. A mind that has drawn a line so precise, so unshakable, that even physical destruction cannot cross it. He wasn't fearless. He simply understood something most people never will, that there are things inside you that cannot be touched unless you open the door yourself. That is what this is about. Not motivation. Not positivity. Not the recycled wisdom that sounds deep but changes nothing. This is about the 7 things that are quietly, invisibly, systematically destroying your ability to think clearly, live powerfully, and become who you are actually capable of becoming. And the first one is the most dangerous because it feels like love. Other people's opinions, not criticism, not feedback. Opinions. The ambient noise of what people might think, what they probably think, what they seemed to think when they made that face, when they went quiet, when they didn't respond the way you expected. You are constructing entire narratives around signals that may not even exist. And inside those narratives, you are making decisions about your appearance, your ambitions, your words, your silences, based on a judgment that lives entirely in your imagination. Epictetus called this one of the primary chains of the mind. Not because caring about people is wrong, but because when you hand your internal compass to external voices, you are no longer navigating. You are drifting. And drifting people don't arrive anywhere they actually chose to be. The second thing is your past. Not the memory of it. The identity you've built around it. There is a difference between what happened to you and what you decided it means about you. Most people never examine that line. They carry their wounds like credentials, proof that life was unfair, that they deserved better, that they were wronged. And perhaps they were. But a wound you keep reopening never becomes a scar. It stays a wound. The Stoic mind does not erase the past. It refuses to be governed by it. Because the past is the one thing in the entire universe that is absolutely permanently beyond your control. Every second you spend mentally living there is a second stolen from the only place where you actually have power, right now. The third thing will surprise you, because society tells you it's a virtue. Desire. Not desire itself, but unexamined desire. The craving for things outside your control. For a specific outcome. A particular person's response. A level of success that you've decided will finally make you feel complete. This kind of desire doesn't drive you forward. It holds you hostage because it contains a silent condition. Until I get this, I cannot be at peace. And life, which does not negotiate, will take enormous pleasure in not delivering exactly what you demanded, on exactly the timeline you required. The person who cannot distinguish between what they want and what they need will spend their life perpetually arriving at thresholds that keep moving. Epictetus did not say, stop wanting things. He said, know what you are actually in control of. Want the effort. Want the character. Want the action. Those are yours. The result, the applause, the approval, the outcome, that belongs to the world. And the world is not your servant. The fourth thing is where most intelligent people quietly destroy themselves. Overthinking. But not the kind people casually complain about. The specific, surgical kind, where your mind takes a situation, turns it over, builds scenarios, plans responses to things that haven't happened, catastrophizes quietly, and then presents you with a version of reality that is almost entirely fictional. And you live in that fiction. You make emotional decisions inside it. You feel the fear of things that don't exist yet, as though they are already happening. The Stoics had a practice for this. They called it distinguishing appearance from reality. When a thought arrives, especially a distressing one, the first question is not, what should I do about this? The first question is this actually true? Or is this what my fear wants me to believe? Most of what terrifies people is a story. A highly convincing, emotionally detailed, personally tailored story. The story is not the event. Do not let the story make decisions. The fifth thing is one nobody talks about honestly: the need to be right. This one lives deep. It masquerades as intelligence, as standards, as integrity. But underneath, it is something more primitive. The terror of being seen as wrong, as foolish, as less than. People will sacrifice relationships, opportunities, and their own growth to avoid the sensation of being corrected. They will argue positions they no longer believe in. They will double down on mistakes rather than reverse course publicly. What does this cost? Everything that requires you to be a beginner. Everything that requires vulnerability. Every conversation where you might actually learn something if you stopped defending your current position long enough to genuinely listen. Epictetus said that the beginning of philosophy is recognizing your own ignorance, not as humiliation, as liberation. The moment you stop needing to be the smartest person in every room, you become dangerous in a completely different way, because now you can actually absorb what the room is offering. The sixth thing is perhaps the most underestimated force in human behavior: comfort. The slow, silent preference for the familiar over the necessary. You know the conversation you need to have and keep postponing. The habit you need to break that you've been managing instead of eliminating. The path you know is right but haven't taken because the wrong path is warmer, easier, and already broken in. Comfort is not peace. Peace is what you feel when you have done what needed to be done. Comfort is what you choose when you are afraid of what doing the right thing will cost. They feel similar from the inside. The long-term results are unrecognizable from each other. The Stoic does not pursue discomfort for its own sake, but the Stoic has trained themselves to recognize the difference between rest and avoidance. And most of the time, what people call rest is avoidance wearing a comfortable face. The seventh thing is the one that will undo everything else if you ignore it. The belief that time is something you have rather than something you are spending. Right now, every hour of low-level distraction, every day of deferred decisions, every year of waiting for conditions to become more favorable. These are not pauses in your life. They are your life. There is no waiting room before the real version begins. Epictetus lived as a slave. He had every reason to wait for freedom, for fairness, for circumstances worthy of his effort. He did not wait. He built a philosophy of extraordinary depth and precision inside conditions most people would use as permanent justification for not trying. He understood something that takes most people decades to grasp, and some never do. The situation is never the obstacle. The mind that refuses to act until the situation improves, that is the obstacle. Here is what it all collapses into. You are not controlled by circumstances. You are controlled by what you have allowed to take up residence inside your own thinking. Other people's voices living in your head, rent-free, shaping your choices. A past that ended years ago, still writing your present. Desires aimed at things you cannot govern. Thoughts you have never questioned. The need to be right overriding the hunger to be wise. The comfort that costs you the life you are capable of. And the illusion that there is still time to start later. Remove these 7 things. Not all at once, not perfectly, but deliberately, and what remains is something most people only glimpse on their best days. A mind that belongs entirely to itself. A will that cannot be broken from the outside because it is no longer dependent on the outside. A person who, like a man with a broken leg looking calmly at his oppressor, has drawn the line. They cannot touch what you do not hand them. That is the whole philosophy. That is the entire war. The only question Epictetus ever really asked, the one that should follow you out of this moment and into everything you do next, is this: what, right now, are you choosing to let control you?